we want slope-intercept form. What do you do with this equation? You have to solve for the y. So we're going to subtract 4x, and then what are we going to do? Divide by -3. So we've got y equals positive 4/3 x minus 5/3. What is the slope of this line? 4/3. All right, so what kind of slope do we need? We need a parallel slope. What's the parallel slope? 4/3. Using this information now, the expectation is you write the equation of the line. I'm going to choose to do y1, or y minus y1 is equal to m times x minus x1. So this is my x1, this is my y1, and there is my slope. So this will be y minus a -6 is equal to 4/3 times x minus 3. At this point in time, I don't care what final form it needs to be in. I would do this regardless of what it said. So now you're going to distribute, and you're going to get 4/3 x minus, and that's going to be over 1. So 4 times 3 is 12. 3 times 1 is 3. 12 divided by 3 is 4. How do I eliminate fractions? Multiply by the common denominator, which is, and we've got to multiply everything by 3. So we have 3y plus 18 equals, those 3's are gone, 4x minus 12. All right. Now, from here, I now start to be concerned about what form I need to be in. So, what am I going to do if I want slope-intercept? I know you all know this. We're going to subtract 18, and we can do that regardless of what form we want. So now we have 3y equals 4x minus 30. Slope-intercept means solve for y. Standard means move 4x to the other side. So if I divide everything by 3, you should have y equals 4/3 x minus 10. Is that the answer I had? Okay, I'm going to print this worksheet so I've got not just the answers, but the corrected parts. Where is it? All right. Next question. Brittany. Which one? 15? All right. So 15 is kind of the reverse of 5 through 12. So I'm going to draw a picture. And I made the picture, I don't know why I made the picture so big. I made the picture enormous. So we've got lines, and I think I'm going to draw only the lines we need. For 15, we need 11 and 14. So I'm going to need these first two lines. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put down 11 and 14. Then I'm going to trace the sides of these angles. What kind of angles are those? This is number 15. They're alternate exterior. This is L, this is P, this is M, and this is N. The question on 15 is, which lines are parallel? Look at what's been highlighted. There's only two parallels there. L is parallel to P. Now, on these reasons, it's the converse or reverse of what we've been saying. we're going to start with if alternate exterior angles are congruent, then lines are parallel. We're concluding parallel. Parallel needs to be after the then. Must be last. If we were concluding congruence, then it would say if lines are parallel. Next question. Let me erase it. Did anybody find any other answers that were wrong? It's the first go around on this worksheet. So you have one like 1, you've got one like 2, you've got one like 3 or 4. I gave you a lot on 5 through, actually that should have been 5 through 12, not 5 through 14. But on the 5 through 12, I think you have 4 of those. You need to bond with your foldable that talks about your parallel and perpendicular lines, your alternate interior. You need to know all of that. You need to bond with your other foldable on your parallel perpendicular, the one on graph paper. All right, number 2 is again asking for parallel, perpendicular, or neither. So in order to determine if two lines are parallel, perpendicular, or neither, what do you need? If we had the ordered pairs, we would do that. Okay, like number 1. How do I find slope from this equation? Carlin, what is the slope here? Right. So you are correct that you must find slope. We're just going to find it in a different way. So this was slope ready. In other words, it is in slope intercept form. This is not slope ready. So what do you have to do? Correct. And how do you do that? Are we going to divide first? We're going to do first. We need that by itself first. So you're going to do what? We could add 14 to both sides. So now I have 10x is equal to 11 plus 14y. Then what would you do? Yes. So you've got 10x minus 11 equals 14y. Now you can divide. So when you divide by 14, you're going to have, how does 10 over 14 simplify? 5 over 7. So what is this slope? Right. Look at that slope. Look at this slope. Parallel, perpendicular, or neither. Yep. Next. Brittany? So number 4 is writing the equation of a line. We're given, what 2 things do you need to write the equation of a line? 2 things. Point and slope. All right, they gave us a point. What did they not give us? They did not give us slope. However, not only did they not give us slope, but they also want perpendicular slope. So what do I do to this equation to find slope? Jeff? So you got negative 7y equals 5 minus 6x. Then what are you going to do? Divide everything by negative 7. So you have y equals negative 5/7 plus 6 over 7x. So what is this current slope, Devin? 6 over 7. Brittany, what is my perpendicular slope then? Okay, it's going to be 7 over 6 is the, yeah. Thank you. Okay. Thank you for telling me that before I got to the end. Then I would have said, what did I do? All right. So For perpendicular slope, we must do the reciprocal, but is that enough? Is that enough? No. Not only do we need reciprocal, we need opposite reciprocal. So rather than think negative, because if this had been negative, we would have wanted the positive. We want to do opposite reciprocal. So I hope you're taking notes on those things you didn't know, so you know that those are things you need to go back and study. And you truly can study for a math test. I think a lot of kids don't think that's possible. But in geometry, there's a lot of studying to do. All right, so now we've got y minus y1 is equal to slope times x minus x1. What do you want to do next, Brittany? Mm-hmm. All right, so we've got that started. I don't care what form they wanted. This is where I would go. And then my next step, regardless of the form they wanted, would be to distribute. So when we distribute, we'll have negative 7, 6x minus 7, 6. Regardless of the form they wanted in, the next step I would do, McKenna, how do we eliminate denominators? Multiply everything by 6. So now we've got 6y plus 48 equals negative 7x minus 7. Regardless of what form I want it in, I will subtract 48. So now I'm at 6y equals negative 7x minus 55. Now, if you want slope-intercept, you divide by 6. If you want standard, you move 7x over. And I think this one was standard, correct? So we're going to add 7x, so you get 7x plus 6y equals negative 55. Next question. Yes, Hope? 13. I think 13 was a proof. Yes. So you have one proof on your test. It will either be like 13 or it will be like 14. So on these, I should probably draw my picture. Do I need all three? I'm thinking. So Hope, you tell us where we're going to go, and I'll put the numbers in as we go. We want to prove that angle 1, which is down here, is congruent to angle 22, which is all the way over here. Okay? So when I start my proof, maybe we'll start down here. Where do we begin? Always. Right. We've got statements, and we've got justifications. All right, and our given said M parallel to N. It told us P parallel to L, and it told us P parallel to K. And that was given. So, looking at your picture, Hope, do you want to go sideways or do you want to go up? Okay, look at your picture and tell me what angle 1 is congruent to. Do you have a worksheet? Does anybody up there have a worksheet? Nick, do you have a worksheet? Can she look at it? Okay, Hope, what is 1 congruent to? Where do you want to go? Good. 1 is congruent to 9, so you're going to say angle 1 is congruent to angle 9. Why, Hope? Why? Good. Notice you did congruence, which means we have to conclude with congruence. All right, now where do you want to go? Look at your picture and tell me where you want to go from there. Okay, and what's that reason? Right. All right, before we go any further, what can we say? If 1's congruent to 9 and 13's congruent to 9, what can we say? And what's that reason? Yep. Okay, so now you're at 13, all right? So where do you want to go from 13? Okay, and what do you know about 13 and 21? Okay, why? Okay. So now if 1 equals 13 and 21 equals 13, what do you know? Right. We're at 21. What's the relationship between 21 and 22? Excellent. And what do you know about linear pair angles? I know you know this. Linear pair angles are, so 21 and 22 are supplementary, and what's the reason? Linear paired angles are supplementary. The definition of linear pair didn't give us this information. It was a theorem. So you got to write all that out. Okay? So now, if 1's congruent to 21, can we replace 21 with 1? So now we're going to say angle 1 and angle 22 are supplementary. And what did we just do? We substituted. Good. Next question. $14. So it looks like on 14 I only needed part of it. I did M and N, and I did P and L, 11 and 6. Here's 11. Who asked for this? Okay. 14. So you're starting at 11. Do you have a worksheet? No? Where do we always begin on a proof? With the given. Okay? So we're going to say M parallel to N, P parallel to L. So you're at 11. Look at your worksheet and tell me, do you want to go across or do you want to go down? Okay, so what is 11 congruent to? Angle 11 is congruent to angle 10. What reason? What letter do they form? So you know vertical angles are congruent. Now you're at 10. You need to go further across. Where you want to go? Okay, but are they congruent? The same side. Ten, 12 are what letter? They're linear pair, which means they're supplementary. So we're at 10. So either go across or you go down. But we need another one that's congruent to 10. Yes. Now what kind of angles are those? Yes. If lines parallel, corresponding angles congruent. So we're here now at 2. If 11's congruent to 10 and 10's congruent to 2, what can you tell me about 11 and 2? And what's that reason? comes from here. 11's congruent to 10, 10's congruent to 2. Yes. You're at 2. Can you get to where we need to be? Can you get to 6? What kind of angles are they? Yes. So angle 2 is congruent to angle 6. Why? All right. So now, if 11's congruent to 2 and 2's congruent to 6, what can you say? And what's the reason? That would work. Or you could have used transitive in this case. I would accept either one. Okay, transitive must have congruence. All right, substitution, do you see that we do have one congruent to 21, but this is not a congruence. So that has to be substitution. But when you've got two congruents, then that's transitive. You can use a transitive. Because we had 11 congruent to 2, 2 congruent to 6. Other questions? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Other questions? Yes, Becky. 1. All right, on 1, is this on your test? Is it on your test? Yes. You are given 4 sets of ordered pairs. We've got P, which is 6, negative 4. And we've got K, which is 3, negative 2. And we're talking about segment PK. Then you've got ordered pairs negative 11, 5 and negative 9, 8. This is W, this is N, and we're talking about segment WN. How do you find the slope of WN? How do you find the slope of PK given 2 ordered pairs? And this is the work I'm going to want to see. I do not want to see a graph. In fact, I probably won't even let you have graph paper, because we don't need graph paper for this test. Go ahead, Becky. Good. That's minus a minus 4. So that's going to be positive 2 over. All right, and how are you going to do this one? 4 over 2. Look at these two slopes. Is that a special relationship? Are they reciprocals? Are they opposite? So therefore they are right. Other questions? Five. Okay. So when we look at 5, I want you to look now. Just FYI, on this section of the test, it will require absolutely none of this thinking process. All right? Absolutely none of it. It's going to be either alternate exterior, alternate interior, corresponding, linear pair, vertical, or same side interior. This is like that very first worksheet we did. The worksheet that I gave you, algebra, that required this thinking process was getting you ready for proofs. Since I gave you a proof, I don't need to drag you through that thinking process a second time. So we've got, on this picture, we've got angles 2 and 4. And angles 2 and 4, this is 4 and this is 2. What letter do the sides form? If I were to trace 4, and I was to trace 2, is that an F? It's a what? It's a T. What kind of angles form a T? Find your foldable. They're a linear pair. You got some studying to do. All right. So this is, I need to see that you know that it's a linear pair. Then I need to know the justification. Linear pair angles are supplementary. All right. Then we get to C. If linear pair angles are supplementary, what kind of equation are you going to write, Carlin? Right. You're going to take these two angles, you are going to add them up, and you're going to set them equal to 180. So you can end up with 11x plus 26 equals 180. When you subtract 26, you're going to get 154. And when you divide by 11, you're going to get 14. Now it says find the measure of angle 3. Here is 3. What's the relationship between 2 and 3? Trace their sides. What letter do they form? Well, those are connecting B's. Alternate exterior don't connect. So that's an X. What angles form an X? Right, it was on the last test, but I had to turn your foldable over to add these two. Okay. Vertical. And so what do you know about vertical angles? Right. So measure of angle, what am I looking for? 3 is equal to the measure of angle 2, which then leads me to my paper to pick up 4x plus 5. So the measure of angle 3 is going to be 4 times 14 plus 5, which is 56 plus 5, which should be 61. Is that what I got? Next question. What kind of angles were 8 and 1? 8 and 1? Alternate exterior. What type of angles are 12 and 13? Alternate interior. What about 8 and 14? This is 8 and 14. What type of angles? Same side interior. What about 13 and 16? Vertical. What about 10 and 2? 10 is here, corresponding. What about 5 and 13? 5. Ah, here's 5. Yes, those are corresponding. What about 9 and 4? Alternate interior. So you've got to be able to recognize those, and you've got to know the relationships. Other questions? Yes. Okay, 9, we've got 13 and 16. What type of angles are those? Caitlin? They are vertical angles. All right, next. What do you know about vertical angles? Okay, vertical angles are congruent. Do not give me parallel. Linear pair and vertical angles do not have parallel attached to them, okay? We had those before. So now what equation will you write if vertical angles are congruent? Correct. And then what are you going to do? Okay. So now we've got 5 equals 4x minus 47. Then what are you going to do? Okay. So you're going to have 52 equals 4x. Now what? And you're going to get 13. Now, which one is this? 9. So now they want us to find 2. Let's go back up here and look what we've got. Here is, we were given 13 and 16. So now you're going to have to go through some thinking process. Here's 13. What do you know about 13 and 5? Corresponding, so they're equal. What's the relationship between 5 and 2? Same side interior, therefore they are supplementary. So I need to do part D. I'm going to need the measure of angle 5. And the measure of angle 5 is equal to the measure of angle 13, correct? So measure of angle 5 equals measure of angle 13. So now I'm going to go to my paper, and 13 was x plus 5. So measure of angle 5 is going to be 13 plus 5, or 18. Now what's the relationship between 5 and 2? Same side interior, which means I have to take 18 away from 180. So I think that takes me down to 162. Next question. Brittany? 10. We've got 10 and 2. Let me go to microprice. All right, so we've got this situation, and we have 10 and 2. 10 is here. 2 is here. What type of angles are they? Corresponding. So what's the justification here? If lines are parallel, then angles are congruent. So what equation will we write? Okay. So how are you going to solve that? So we got 17 equals x plus 1, then what? Subtract 1, you get 16. All right. So on 10, they want the measure of 16. 16's over here. What do you know about, what is 10 congruent to? 14? And what's the relationship between 14 and 16? So for the next thing you're going to have to do is you're going to have to find the measure of angle 14. And the measure of angle 14 equals the measure of angle 10. So that's going to be 16 plus 17, or 33. Now, if this is 33, how do we get 16? Right. 180 minus 33 is going to be 147. Next. 9. I think it's 162. I got 13. Did you get 13? Yeah. Okay.
I did it a different way.
Okay.
So I got 18 as 2, not the 162. I don't know if I did it wrong or not, because I can't compare what we did because we did something different.
So you said 16 was equal to 2.
It's equal to 6.
6.
No, I did it wrong.
Okay.
Yeah.
Next. This is your opportunity to ask any question. I did not waste your time on this review. Kayla. Yes, you will have to do it, but I did not have you go through a big long process to get there. It should be corresponding alternate interior, alternate exterior right off the bat. But why do I do this? You could look at the diagram and say, oh, that's obtuse, that's obtuse, they have to be equal. That's obtuse, this is acute, they have to be supplementary. I need to know that you know exactly what's going on. And that's the only way I can tell. Brittany.
So for number 13 and 14, did you say that we don't have to, we have to be like the reason it's big?
Yeah, that's a linear pair. Linear pair angles are supplementary. Okay, so let me go through this one more time. Linear pair and vertical angles. Justifications. Justifications do not begin with if lines parallel. Do not. If you look at that one quiz I gave you where I asked you to tell me what type of angles, what letter they form, and the justification, I did not give you credit if you said if lines parallel, linear pair angles are supplementary. If you go back on that quiz and look at that, that was my feedback to you to let you know don't do that on this second test. All right, we do have a 9 weeks optional test after school on Friday. The test objectives are online. If you want a study guide for that, you want to study Unit 1 review worksheet and Unit B, 1A worksheet and 1B worksheet. Brittany. Yes, you may keep this to study from.